it's easier just getting them.
What is it again? I always remember.
And then you can get picked up. Like,
Committee, what is it? It's like you have the dangest name.
Quite an
but I can
adventure.
never
It
remember.
is.
Conference? It's
The
conference.
t-shirts are
City
cute.
Cascade
Really cute on you.
First room.
Do you wear that all over Dyersville too?
I just worked, well, I wasn't allowed to wear it before the.
There were strict rules. Okay, so I sent that.
Gosh, you have such a hard ass as a boss. Jeez.
Wearing it
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to do.
So, figured this is the next council meeting, I can wear a t-shirt.
She wore her, what did you wear, yellow on?
But you couldn't tell I had a winter coat on, it was cold.
Yeah, it was a little Antarctica.
Not near as cold as it.
It is definitely worse. What was that noise?
That reminder, mute my watch and mute my phone.
It's 6, whatever ding that was.
They're going right now.
Church bells, I think, yeah.
Who are we wondering now?
We're going, Mr. Mayor. It's time.
It's time. Church bells or
Do we,
town clock and-
Do we want to move this one up since there's so many?
Ask for a show of hands to see if that's working.
Yeah, that keeps it from waiting around too long. Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody to our Monday, November 27th, 2023 Cascade City Council meeting. We'll have a call to order with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Kelchin.
Here.
Roush.
Here.
Hush. Delaney.
Here.
Oliphant.
Here,
I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Oliphant,
Second?
second by Hush. All in favor?
Aye.
At this point, we'll have public comment. You have a limit of 3 minutes per person on agenda items and local government issues. Seeing none. Number 6, consent agenda, review and approve the following minutes. City Council 11/13/23, November 27th, 2023 claims. Is there any questions? Seeing none, I need a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Roush,
Second?
second by Oliphant. All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to have a vote on moving number 13 up ahead, since there's so many people here in regard to that. Is that favorable to everybody?
Yep, I'll make a motion in that regard.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move number 13 up. And consideration of ordinance 2023, no parking on west side of Tyler Street Northeast from First Avenue to Second Avenue Northeast, and east side of Lincoln Street Northeast from First Avenue West to the alley by the jail. And this is the first of 3 readings.
So to start out, we'll do one, I guess, at a time. We'll start out with Tyler Street. We've had these conversations before regarding the agricultural traffic that comes from north of town and gets to the intersection at First Avenue East, and then has a challenge if there's people parking on both sides of the road in order to have enough space to be able to swing an appropriate turning motion. And so we've discussed it a number of times. I know that Andy specifically asked for this to be on this agenda. So what was sent to the neighborhood was looking at the west side of the road, starting at First Avenue, and then the furthest point that we were entertaining for discussion would be the south side of Second Avenue. And, possibly you could do something less than that. If you're looking strictly at the corner and the turning radius, probably don't need all the full block. If we're also concerned about when people are parked on both sides of the road, that it also gets pretty congested when there's people on both sides, right on the south side of Second Avenue.
That's, I guess, what I was looking at more, is it gets really congested if they're on both sides. Like Officer Stainer and I met each other the other day. I did have a car trailer on. Brad was hauling cattle, but I was coming down.
And you've got to swing wide to make the
Well,
turn.
I was on the road already, but we
Yeah.
met at about the end of the Raker property, and Brad was coming up and Brad had to stop with a load of cattle so I could come down, because you gotta, and sometimes when you're coming down the hill, you might have to pull into a parking spot so somebody coming up can get by you, or vice versa, just depending on where you meet somebody, when you meet somebody.
Page 27.
It's just pretty narrow there. And I know the top half doesn't have parking by Lynn and Mike Noonan's. And then there's mailboxes on the opposite side.
On the east side,
On the east side.
yeah.
So I don't know.
On my way across town, I followed a semi. They had to not only go to the middle lane, but they had to almost swing out into the third lane just to even make the turn.
I mean, we've been walking by in the mornings when cattle trailers have been going, and it's dicey. I mean,
Well, it's
I
not-
can't imagine being in a car sitting there. That would be terrifying.
And I wouldn't even say necessarily agriculture. Like, if you're coming down, I've had it before where, because I travel that road a lot, when you turn down, if there's cars parked on both sides and there's kids coming to go across the pool, even if you're coming down, there's kids, they don't wait till the bottom of the street. They're just going to cross wherever it's convenient. And so one car pulls over into a spot to let the one come up the hill, and the kids think you're getting out of their way. They bolt across. There's a car coming up, and you're trying to go down, and it's just heavily trafficked right there.
Is that street not as wide as most?
If
I
the,
don't know if you can see the right of way on that map.
it seems fairly narrow if somebody's parking on each side.
Can't see the right of way number on here. I don't think it's any more narrow, is it, Phil? Should just be 50 at least.
You're right away, I would think.
If you go on Beacon, you can see.
It's just, I mean, and you notice it when there's cars parked there, but it's, right now I know they're working on the Cowder House, the former Cowder House, but you notice it a lot because that dumpster's there and parks right across from it. So you notice it a lot then.
It's a
But even
little
when
tight.
there's vehicles that park in front of the old Cowder House. I don't know who currently owns it, but even when that vehicle moves around, Ann's always parked in the same spot, and it's always tight right there. And I know Ann's vehicle's already been hit once right there, so.
So obviously, whoever lives on whichever side of the road is gonna not like the idea that it's on their side of the road, although when we were evaluating which side to go with, there's less of a parking issue on the west side than there is on the east side, which is why we chose the west side.
And after I got thinking about the east side, which I know is not as favorable for some, but there's mailboxes right there too. So that takes up a big area, and then there's a large driveway on that side too.
Well, it's
I-
really, it's no parking all the way down to the end of Noonan's property, right?
There's what?
No, there's a
Just the
spot,
first part?
just the first,
Basically up.
How
and
far
down.
is it?
There's one car spot on
One-
the Union side.
at the top.
Okay.
We didn't hear what you said, Riley.
I asked if, I thought it was no parking all the way down to the end of Noonan's, but.
There's no parking there.
It's just one car spot,
car
pretty
spot.
One
much.
car spot, there's a yellow line that runs from the corner down and leaves enough for one car to park between their driveway and
The top.
that yellow line.
Yeah.
Would anybody like to come up to the podium and comment about anything that would impact you?
Is something parked, is there a yellow, you're saying, on Tyler Street?
There's
You
a
come-
yellow on both sides of Tyler Street.
Yeah, there's yellow down to about there and down to about.
So I don't feel like that,
Our side.
Is
for-
enough.
for purposes of the ordinance, that was not approved.
Is that no
Because I don't see on our list of no parking
No parking.
areas,
Yeah, from the stop.
the only side of Tyler Street is southeast Tyler Street by the elementary school. So anything that we do, even that is not in the code.
My name is William Felderman. I bought the house at 107 Tyler Street, which I bought in good faith. Never heard anything in the last year that I've owned it that there's been a problem with the driving on either side of the street. Couple of things that I've noticed, and I'm a real estate appraiser and a realtor. Tyler Street, the house that I own, is the only house that doesn't have a corner or any other place to park. Okay, and I don't want anybody to lose parking. I'm not saying it should be the other side of the road or anything. But we have no place to even put additional parking or anything. We're not on a corner, we can't go around the corner, we don't have the alley. I don't have access in that alley, which is south of the property, to put more parking. That house is locked the way it's locked. I think that house gets hurt more from this proposal than any other house there. It is so far down from the intersection, so I don't think the semis really have a problem. I do realize there's been a problem the last month with my dumpster there. We expected to have it out of there last week. A bunch of my workers got COVID, and hopefully they're back to work on Wednesday. We got the kitchen left to gut, and then the dumpster's out of there. And I do realize the dumpster's a little larger than a car. My tenant was my daughter, who was living in the house, and basically they parked in the driveway. So there was really never anyone parked in front of that house for all this time. And I understand the lady across the street parked right there, and I notice how narrow it is. But it gets back to, I bought this house 10 months ago, we're trying to rehab it and clean, fix it up and everything, but it's the only house that doesn't have any other place to go. We don't have a side street, and we don't have an alley, and that's all, that's what I want to tell you. I mean, we're sort of locked in that way, so.
I would say, on the east side of the road, like the two houses that are actually facing First Avenue,
There's only
obviously
one
they
facing-
can't park on First Avenue there,
Oh.
right? You can't park there.
No.
Okay,
So they would have issues where the only parking that any visitors to their house, so the corner lot, Mike, if you can point to
More just the corner lot than
the
anything.
corner, but
because
then isn't the,
but they
The
do have.
Reese
room-
house has
the
that
Reese
whole
house has their
back
thing.
driveway.
Right, but again, they can't park anywhere on the road, other than right there as well.
They could park in their yard, though. I mean, they could make parking where the 107 doesn't have any place to put any additional parking.
Right, you at least have a driveway, though. The reason, even like looking at where we went, I know that the West House, like, they don't have, like, theirs, I would say, is probably the worst, but,
And I got a 4-bedroom home. And it's a 1-car driveway when you first pull in that goes down to a 2-car. That will affect the value of that property if you cannot park anywhere around it. There is not adequate parking off-street because of the way that lot and everything was done before I bought it. So you're gonna have to, if you put 3 cars in there, someone's gonna have to move a car to get the other cars out, which is not convenient. It'd be different if it was wide enough for 2 cars. I get that. You could put 4 cars in there, you'd move 1. But 1 car's blocking 2 vehicles in. It's a narrow driveway right off the street. So like I said, it has no other place to go. And I get with the semis coming up, and let's go back to the semis a little bit. They're not going the speed limit. I mean, they are moving pretty good when they come through that area. But if you're talking about the intersection there at First Avenue and Tyler, the second house really isn't a problem then. If they're going slow enough, even if there's cars parked on both sides of the road, they should be able to get a cattle vehicle or trailer through those 2 cars. More easier when the dumpster's not there, I agree. But like I said, that house at 107 is landlocked, give more parking, and it is really a hindrance on that property. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What happens if we just deal with the Noonan property and then this lot north of that and allow his property to?
it's whatever the council wants. I submitted the notice to the neighbors with the worst-case scenario. I didn't want to say, only go to that alley that's not really an alley, and then have you do something different. So I put the highest level of no parking, and then you can,
Could I say one more thing?
Sure.
Can it be daytime no parking? So if you have people over, they could park after 5 o'clock? That would at least make it a little better. People come home from work, then they can park on the street. I don't know, I'm not sure, I'm not from the farm community here. I don't know how often trucks and tractors and, things are going through the property. But at least that would be, people could, like I said, it's a 4-bedroom house. Someone who buys it, if I put it up for sale or rent it, they're gonna need to park on the street, or they're walking a block or so. So if you had till 5 o'clock would be an option. No parking from 9 in the morning or 8 in the or 9 in the morning till 5, and then let them park. I mean, I'd like to work with y'all. I just can't be landlocked where I can't rent it, or even sell it. It's gonna hurt the value of the property if people can't park there at night. You're having a family with a bunch of teenagers and everybody has cars.
And we understand that, but that would not be the only, I mean, everybody that lives on First Avenue has the same situation. They can't park in front of their
No,
homes.
I understand, but I'm like I said, it's an option on the side street. You know, if we did a time thing on it.
And that's what I said in my letter, is we recognize that no matter what the council does, there's gonna be some level. Nobody's gonna come here and be like, we think this is a great idea. We'd love for you to have no parking in front of our house. And the council really just has to balance that with safety, starting at the intersection. Again, the reason I put the yellow line all the way to the right-of-way of Second Avenue was I didn't want the council to make it longer than what I notified you. If they shorten it, obviously that's up to the council. But everybody recognizes it's not fabulous for whoever it affects.
So downtown Dubuque, I think it's Jackson. Like, well, a lot of there's semi-traffic on that road, and on a lot of the side streets, they will, the last couple spots on the side street, they
No
will-
parking.
They'll put no parking, and then they actually put lines on there to make sure you get over when you're turning, so that semis can turn. If we got rid of part of the parking on the Noonan side at the very top, and then actually striped it,
It's not even, I don't even know if it's necessarily turning that's as much of a problem. It just seems like it gets pinched off down at Kurt's.
Okay, good. I'm really confused. Because we've lived in that property for 40 years. I've parked in front of that house for 40 years. We only have a one-car garage, and Wayne parks his truck in the driveway. Why all of a sudden are you gonna have the rest of the neighborhood parked in front of my house? When for 40 years they haven't?
I mean, I would say sometimes, I can certainly attest to being here for less than 2 years. Like, we talk about things and address things that I hear the same thing, Ann. Somebody will say, we have like a vision triangle on a corner, and they'll say, I've been parking cars there for 50 years. And I'm like, but it's not legal, and if somebody comes to us and has a concern, we have to talk about it. That doesn't mean that the council may decide to leave well enough alone.
Well, and now a lot of those trucks, and there's a lot of those trucks, like every 15 minutes last weekend, that are now turning and taking Second Avenue. And they're not going up and down the hill. And I don't know if that's because of the dumpster and because of me, but I don't want to go down around the corner, because then if I come in my back door, I have to go up steps. I've got 2 artificial knees, 2 artificial shoulders. Wayne just had artificial hip put in. We want to walk in our front door that has 0 entry, And like I said, now the trucks have been turning. Why can't they just keep turning and taking Second Avenue?
They were doing that because of having to stop at the top of the hill because they were
Loaded.
pumping and running a lot, and they didn't want to stop at the top of the hill, or if they met each other. Because they were hauling tanker too. Tanker on the top of a hill, not the
So
best
how does
idea.
this solve them having to stop at the top of the hill?
That was just for running tanker for that 5 days. They were,
And it was smelly. Okay, I'm just curious, like I said, for 40 years, we've been fine, and now it's not.
So, when the trucks, help me understand this, when the trucks turn on Second Avenue, where do they come out at?
they came all the way over to Monroe, which they can't really, that's not
That's-
even really a road.
That's,
Gravel over.
Oh, is that through
Through
the
the,
livestock?
yeah.
yeah,
They weren't turning and going up?
no, they were running up to Monroe, and just because it's flatter, it's easier to take off, that you're not starting on a hill.
So Monroe's the one by the fire department?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
by Casey's, yep. They were
So they
turning-
come behind Casey's and then come there? Why wouldn't they do that anyway?
It's not a road.
that's all private.
That's all private.
Oh, it's private.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be on Second anyway, that's not a truck route.
Oh.
yeah.
And it was just redone.
But Tyler Street is a truck route?
Yeah, I would.
It's the most direct road to get you out to,
The country.
when there's not a truck route, you gotta take the most direct route to get you to.
So what does the council think? I guess we have The yellow line that I drafted, again, I only did it just for worst case, that would be the furthest north. Or we go to the edge of the house that's currently affected, and then have no parking in front of, I think it's Dave Thomas's lot that looks like an alley, and then Noonan's. I would think that would be,
But would you really even need that last lot? Like,
Not really.
to me, like,
If you're
Noonan's
just-
property's fairly deep, like, and really that's only one spot then that's taken away.
well, the law has to say it's everything, because nothing says that yellow line. If there's a yellow line there, it's not following the code.
Well, yeah, I'm saying from First Avenue to the end of Noonan's property.
It's gotta be more than one car, what do you mean?
He's just saying go to the end of Lynn and Mike Noonan's
Yeah.
driveway. But I think you,
What? So you're saying don't even affect the Thomas property?
I don't know, I think you,
If you went to the north of Noonan's property, that'd eliminate just about anything.
You're talking about Noonan's property plus a lot. The small
One
lot.
property or two on the west side? What are we talking?
I'm saying just one, but that's my thoughts.
Like, you're saying go to the north edge of his driveway?
I'm saying from
my trip hazard.
from here to here.
That's what I think too, Riley.
Yep.
Like, to me, everything farther down is overkill.
It's,
You can
That's
have,
my
Well,
opinion.
well, it's overkill
Like
from the
I-
turning standpoint, but when you have that big of trucks, you can't have two vehicles passing.
it's not even, you can't have, if you have, let's say there's nothing in front of the, was it 107, the former Cowder property. If you have nothing in front of there, even two vehicles, you have to
be careful.
go very diligently when you meet somebody.
So if you allow parking on both sides, and someone's coming down the hill, and the ag truck is coming up southbound, that truck has to wait at Second Avenue. Like, there's no two vehicles passing each other.
Oh, no, you'd never.
So if you're only worried about the turning, you're right, just Noonan's. If you're concerned with the fact that it's large, you know, it's different than just regular vehicles passing.
If it's even, like, if I would meet my wife, like, if I'm coming home and she's leaving,
You
like,
just wait.
still, one of you is waiting.
But
Because
isn't
you-
that like pretty much any street in town?
But it,
Is this that much
Quite a few.
narrower than every other street?
on a hill,
now? Or what happens when you get past Wes's in front of Shirley and Carroll's?
it's, so, it's a lot,
Nobody
it's
parks
wider
there.
there. And yeah, nobody parks on both sides.
I would,
But I mean, why is that not an issue when you need vehicles?
It's wider and nobody parks there.
I would think if we took Noonan's property and then the driveway, that small lot to the north, at that point, anybody going up or down should be able to figure out who has
The right of way.
the right of way. I mean, if it's a truck going down, there should be enough room. I mean, that must be 150 feet, I would guess. There's got to be enough room for them to pull over to the right if there's somebody coming south on that, heading up the hill, or vice versa.
Majority of the council agree with that?
I mean, coming down the hill, you pretty much let the guy coming down the hill come down the hill, because you're,
Well, either way. I mean, there's enough room there to pull over to the right, to the east side, you know, if somebody's,
Isn't that where people are usually parked? So you probably can't.
You usually pull over where the mailboxes are and
Yeah.
The big driveway.
in the driveway, yeah, you
that's,
kind of shoot over there.
time I pull over, that's where I pull into.
So if we did Bill's proposal, we essentially, I know that the yellow doesn't, whatever's there currently
Yeah,
is
yeah,
not
that's fine.
legal, but whatever. So if, for what they're currently parking, if we went with Bill's idea, we would be essentially eliminating two parking spots?
probably.
Does that make sense?
Is Bill doing the lot north of Noonan's too?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you saying
The small
no?
lot.
So are you saying just to the driveway?
Just to the north side of the driveway of that lot.
Well, there's probably only one parking spot there.
Yeah,
That's what I was
there.
thinking too, Bill. So if there's
roughly
that
a-
parking spot and then the parking spot up, like on the south side of Noonan's driveway, there's one spot there.
Well, it's it's all of Noonan's and to the driveway of Thomas's.
Right, I agree. But currently, all of Noonan's is only one parking spot because there is yellow on the road. So people aren't parking there. So there's one spot there, and then there's one spot between Noonan's driveway and the driveway of the house north of them, correct?
probably, yeah.
Yeah, I would say pretty much nobody parks in front of Noonan's anyways.
I mean,
For
just
parades.
with-
Parade, yeah.
And like Fourth of July, like when stuff's going on at the park.
Yeah,
Or Rakers has stuff.
Or Waker, yeah.
yeah.
Right, one time, there were a lot of people living there. A lot of vehicles. Because I'm just gonna say, if you go over a block, Harris Street is terrifying in the summertime when the pool's open.
Mhm.
Because
People fly.
cars park on both sides because they're going to the pool, and you can't have two cars meet there either.
I think the difference with the Harris Street versus Tyler Street, whether it's fair or not, is the trucks.
Trucks, well, there's Riverbend.
Yeah.
There's another whole subdivision out there.
Yep.
It's away
It's busier.
out of town.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a straight through where Harris is
So can everybody on the council live with First Avenue to the Thomas driveway, south side?
I got a question. So on the east side there, I mean, on a regular basis, you guys would know, I mean, how many cars do you think normally are parked there?
On our side? Okay, I don't know.
Rakers is usually out
Sorry,
They
your
go
side.
one,
Yeah.
And we usually got one or two.
one or two.
So we might have 3 cars
On the east side.
on that east side there.
Yeah,
At
so
most.
one towards the top
Yep,
where that one's actually parked.
Right.
And then Kurtz will have one, yeah, you can see Raker's car there. And then
Yep.
Kurtz will have one or two, which is pretty much their front of their property.
No, things will get off it.
so there is, yeah, so you got plenty of room there, like you were saying.
There's a yellow line that runs down on the east side in front of my, or alongside my property as well, that runs down to keep them off the corner, which I think is a great idea. So, we try to stay down as far as we can without interfering with the mailboxes that are down there, because between that long driveway and my little garage, there's a line of mailboxes there, so we have to stay clear of that.
So you pretty much don't have parking. You got almost enough room.
So enough room for about 2
Don't
cars.
trip on the
Yeah.
cord.
I can't get it.
Mike, don't
Watch
trip.
courts. There's courts.
So, you're saying you park right in here, there's mailboxes?
Yeah.
Yep,
You
there's
see
the
the
mailboxes.
Mailbox next
Yeah,
to the driveway.
so you might have a car here, we might have a car or 2 here
Yeah,
Yep.
at most.
No,
So-
you'll have 2 cars up, which is the First Avenue.
yeah.
So there's
Two
two
here.
Cars up in there.
Yep.
So there's a car there, and then there's usually a car right underneath.
So if we're going to about, say, here-ish somewhere.
No, we were saying the south side of the driveway. No, no,
Right.
down.
Right
No,
there.
no.
Everyone is directionally impaired.
No,
South, right?
Yes, the south edge of the driveway is this way.
Yeah.
It's done.
Go up, keep going, stop.
Right there, okay.
That's what I'm,
So
that's
we
what I
have
think
mailboxes
Bill was saying.
across on this side, so.
I
Right,
thought
Bill?
Bill was
Or no?
saying the south edge of the next driveway up.
That's correct.
I just want to make sure that
Full-
we're.
Well, then you are
Oh,
saying you're
saying
affecting
here,
both
Bill.
frontages.
Yeah, okay.
So you want to affect the whole Thomas lot. Dave Thomas owns the lot with that alley. That's not an alley.
Okay.
So you want to do that whole frontage?
So if we went to there, it's only eliminating 2 parking spots.
That's Duffy's.
That's a
Oh,
top.
sorry,
That's
Duffy's.
Duffy's.
I was like.
Was it Tom Duffy?
Yeah.
Tom does.
No, Steve.
Yeah.
Thomas. Sorry.
So if we were going to the north side of that, of Noonan's driveway, we're only eliminating 1 spot. If we go to the south side of that next driveway, we're gonna eliminate 2 spots. Everybody agree?
Yeah.
And you're saying there's yellow on the east side?
Yep.
Yeah,
So then we
there's
need to
yellow.
have Phil measure what that is, and that needs to get added to the code, right? We need to say, on the east side, so many feet, whatever the yellow currently is, and then we would have Phil measure from First Avenue to the south side of the house driveway, and then we would say that many feet. So the code would say, Tyler, east side, so many feet north of First Avenue. Tyler, west side, so many feet, and it would be this much
Yeah,
and
so you'll be
this
able
much.
to dip in between the mailboxes and here, and then back out, and then you can dip back in. Yeah.
Fred, what are your thoughts?
Well, I realize that there's yellow on the east side, kind of between First Avenue and Rakers driveway. That's a good thing. Kind of keep that open, because if you've got eastbound traffic and they're turning on there, if it's a larger vehicle, they have to swing wide to get on there. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I would keep that definitely On the Noonan side, yeah, I know the dumpster has been there for a little while, and I've actually talked to Mr. Ryder about putting some cones there so it's more visible and stuff too, because we've had some complaints about it. And I know your car's been hit at least once,
Once.
at least, yeah,
That was a combine.
yeah. And a
And
big
there
piece
were
of farming
cars,
equipment, yeah.
the cars parked
Yeah.
during a big thing going on over the Legion.
Yep, so, yeah, I mean, if you went even, honestly, where Duffy's
Drive
driveway,
is.
where that alley is, if you went to the north side of that, you're not gonna be able to park in the driveway there, and I don't think there's enough room from the south side to Noonan's driveway to actually park a car in there. So if you went to the north side of his property, or north side of his driveway going in there, like, on the top part here, you're not, I don't think there's enough space between here and here to actually park a car anyway.
No, it's
So,
tight.
rather than to go to the south side, if you went to the north side, that's gonna leave probably a couple parking spots here for that property. So, I would say go to the north side of his driveway going back in there.
It's roughly 135 or 130 feet from First Avenue to
The corner of his driveway.
yeah, to the
South?
corner of the alley.
Okay. North corner or south corner?
So,
South.
Okay.
And you really don't need to say the width of the driveway, because you can't park in front of a driveway
Can't
anyway.
park in front of the driveway anyway, so.
You could really just, if you're not gonna go all the way to the south side of the house driveway, then
Just
you
go to
might
the
as well go
south
to
side of the
south
drive.
the alley that's not an
Yeah.
alley. To keep saying that, because people think it's an alley.
Yeah, kind of an alley, kind of a driveway, half alley and driveway.
We have lots of driveways that are really pretend alleys.
You guys don't maintain that, do you? No. So, right.
Mhm.
To me, that makes the most sense. That's what I would like to see happen.
Yep.
So you're saying on the map, it's 135, Riley?
It's about 130, between 125 and 130, rough numbers. with-
So we'll just say
with a beacon.
130 until, we could do that for the first reading tonight, and then.
really,
Bill
there's
can
not
get us-
many cars that park in that area.
No,
Ever.
ever.
It's not gonna,
Once in a while, Noonan's will
alleviate
have
it much.
something on it, you see a car parked
And that's
on
unusual.
the south side of the driveway, but yeah.
This
that's
is a
not
little
really-
bit better look at it.
Actually though, if we went to the north end of the Duffy property, that small lot, and then if you take in consideration the width of the driveway on the next property, you're actually gaining quite a bit more footage, because you can't park in front of the driveway either. You know, you really gain a lot more.
So you're still saying go to the south side of the house?
So
He's
I
saying
got
go
the
to
pointer here. So
North
here,
side of the,
Don't trip.
he's saying go to the north side of the driveway, I believe.
Yeah, basically, if you go here, you'd also gain the width of the driveway to allow more, you'd actually gain quite a bit more area there.
naturally.
Trip hazard.
Andy.
Taking them out.
I mean, the key for that house is you can still park in front of the actual house.
Mhm.
Then the good thing, you only have to worry about meeting somebody on the, what, probably 120 front footage, or frontage of
That house.
that house.
Mhm.
And if they did have extra people there, if it's winter time, they can park around the corner.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with you going to the north side of Duffy, if that's the gentleman's name, coming up to my driveway, because we don't park that side anyway, so I don't have a problem with that at all. Yeah.
Just in front of the house.
Yeah, just past my driveway, which gives me 2 spots in front of the house.
It is kind of a funky driveway.
Yeah, it really is. So, but yeah, I have no problem going up to my driveway, because I don't think anybody needs to park in front of someone else's house anyway. So that would still give us 2 in the driveway and 2 in front of the house, and that'd be fine.
And if he doesn't have anybody, a large family living there with
If they not-
multiple
yeah.
cars, it would alleviate all that, because
Correct.
Wes is just
We
have,
have
just
the
your
one- it's my
daughter's car,
yeah.
yeah.
Correct.
So that's the
Yeah.
only one you'd really ever
Yeah,
drive around.
yeah.
And she's most of the time more towards the intersection road.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
There's nothing, nobody
Yeah.
really across from her. Yeah.
We drove there until we put a driveway there.
Yeah.
Where she parks
Yeah.
now.
Well, no, she parks right in front of our house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So is the council agreeable to Bill's proposal to the south side of that driveway?
I'm good
To
with
the-
that.
So, I mean,
Yeah, south side.
South side of the house
107
driveway.
driveway, yeah.
So Andy, you're good with that, Riley?
Yep. Any other thoughts?
So what's it, do you have the measurement of how many feet? We'll get the exact ones from Phil before the second reading, but, and then Phil, can you measure this east side too? Whatever the yellow is.
Thank you, Phil.
It's roughly, yeah, right at 175.
175. All right, so if we want, when we get to doing this, we'll go to Lincoln Street, but it would then be the west side of Tyler Street for 175 feet north of First Avenue East. And then we'd add on the east side of Tyler Street, and then we'll say whatever's currently painted yellow will get you the number of feet for
I'd
the
say
second reading.
it's probably the first 30 foot, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say about 30 foot, so.
Okay, so we'll just say that for tonight, and we'll get the exact numbers.
Because it's a large vehicle space.
Yeah.
It would-
Yep.
So are you guys good with this? Before we vote, we'll do Lincoln.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Lincoln Street is,
East side.
we're talking the east side, winter only. It's really not safe there. We had Phil take a picture with the
Snow pusher.
snow pusher bucket on the front of the loader. And you literally have inches on each side of cars. And that is a main thoroughfare. Not all downtown snow comes that way. But that is Phil's route. Sometimes Marty, I think you said too, but they push a lot of that snow on Lincoln.
We used to stockpile snow on Lincoln.
Right. And now you like,
Used to stockpile snow on Lincoln.
They used to stockpile right at that intersection, yeah.
and now you're pushing it more back by our property.
Down the next day.
Right.
You know, whenever we get back to work, it's easier.
So we counted, it's a potential of 5 spots if you do the whole east side from First Avenue. Obviously, you can see the right now, all the
So
way
you
to the
can see what's
alley.
proposed there.
Yep, so there's currently 5 painted spots. There's no reason to do it in the summertime, it's fine.
It would only be in the winter that we would do this?
Yep.
Okay.
And both sides or just one?
No restrictions in the summer, and then in the winter, east side only.
And so are we saying as of first snowfall, or are we saying like date to date?
Gotta have signs that say date. So we even thought we could do December 1 to April 1, and if there is a snow like we just had the other night, we'll just suck it up for November. Since there's, then that's all the community events, like there's really no big community events downtown December through March. So we'd say December 1 to April 1, east side of that block. All times. And that's how the
Snowfall.
signage.
Yeah, pretty much through March, don't we? Do we need all of March?
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to have it, but
Okay.
I mean, you could have snow in April, but again, we're kind of saying November and April, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
How many cars would you say are normally parked there?
sometimes there's 4.
There's-
It's packed. Well, the
'Cause
spots
That's
are,
all apartment right there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
and everybody was
They're-
notified.
There's usually several at least there.
So, all right, I can't remember, is there parking they can go back here somewhere? Or is
Yes.
it back
There's
behind?
parking down by the jail.
Down by the jail, okay.
They can park by the soccer fields, right?
Yeah.
If
Gotcha.
you go further north, they could park up there. They could, technically, people park
By the Riverwalk Park.
behind Ross's
Yeah.
building, right?
I would say last year it was probably 2 cars generally. Most other times people would stay out of the way, but
Okay.
And we did notify McAllister's and Myers, so.
Any other questions?
We
Guys
didn't get
okay
any
with that?
feedback from them? Okay.
Are you guys okay with that then, if we do? So since it's all in the same chapter, if you want to consider this for a first reading, then it would be amended. So letter U would stay the same, and then letter T, again, would be the 175 on the west side and 30 feet on the east side, north of First Avenue on Tyler Street. And then we do 2 more readings.
I need a motion on this.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Roush,
Second?
second by Oliphant. Roll call.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Felchen.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Number 7, open public hearing on proposed development agreement with ROSO Properties LLC. I need a motion to go into public hearing.
I'll make a motion to go into public hearing.
Motion by Oliphant.
I'll second.
Second by Roush. Oh, roll call?
Kelchen.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
So one of the requirements, once we have urban renewal amendment, which we amended the plan to include the potential for, starts on page 7. Once you have it added to the plan, which you did at the last meeting, then we have to have a public hearing for every private development that is being considered for public funds with TIF money. So Ross is here if anybody has any questions. In the future, we won't be having them come after they've done the development, but if you recall the way people were told in the past that once you're done with your project, come and see us. So really need to do it ahead of time. But because we didn't, we tried to take the word of what the developers, in the case of, I think we did that for Cascade Lumber as well as Ross and Chad Dummer. So the total max that the ORs could get for that property is $25,000 with a max of $3,600 per year. So there would be 7 years of payments. And it's a percent of the tax bill. So this is the same where it's an annual appropriation that would be made. This is the Butch and Frankie's building with property upstairs that was remodeled into residential. And then, of course, we have the commercial space that's downstairs, vacant at the time, but I believe there's another similar type home goods business that will be opening from what I heard January or February. So I don't know if there's any questions or if anybody has any questions for Ross.
Thank you for staying. You thought you were going to get out here early.
Yeah, I did.
Any other questions?
I'm not.
If none, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Motion by Roush,
Second?
second by Oliphant, roll call.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Kelchen.
Aye.
Number 9, consideration of resolution number 89-23, approving development agreement with ROSO Properties LLC, authorizing annual appropriation, tax increment payments, and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement.
I'll make a motion for resolution 89-23.
Motion by Oliphant,
I'll second.
second by Roush, roll call.
Hush.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Kelchen.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Number 10, discussion on changes to ordinance for violations to snow emergency parking, definition of snow emergency, and towing versus citations.
So we've been talking about this as a staff and would like the council's consideration to make some changes, not to generate revenue, but to affect change. So we've had some challenges back when Lions had a tow truck. It was obviously a lot easier to be able to just hook people and tow them. For the last couple of years, that really hasn't been effective since they got out of the business. I believe that happened when McAllister's purchased the property. Fred did speak to Lehman's, who have a tow truck, but theirs is a flatbed, and they're not interested in assisting us. Although it's not here yet, Delaney's did talk about possibly having a tow truck here. But again, we're competing with if there's, people in ditches, things like that. And so what we really want to look at is having one more tool in the toolbox to be able to effectively have snow emergencies complied with. And our hope by having high citation amounts is that it's one and done. If somebody gets a high enough citation, they're not going to do it again. And really, if you look at how much they would pay for towing, it could be close to the amount that we are suggesting that you cite them. And then instead of their car being gone and having to find it and hope that the person, like if it gets taken to Delaney's, then that means that they have to find Delaney's. Sorry, what? Oh, find Delaney's. And if they're there, to be able to pay for the vehicle towing. This way it's a citation. We have the ability for it to eventually go to court. If not, it would be a municipal violation. So right now we have the ordinance kind of defines, if you look at we try to give you all the pages that there's a number of different chapters. But a snow emergency is defined. It talks about 4 inches or more. It can be combinations of weather, not just necessarily snow. Obviously, we always work with the mayor Typically, the mayor, myself, and Fred are going to defer to Public Works to be able to determine the time frame that we need it. And we're really good about making sure that it's put out in the media, Facebook. Fred's always good about taking 30 copies around town, putting them on businesses beforehand, front of the grocery store, gas stations, do everything that we can. And basically the way it would be worded, and kind of still is right now, is that it's declared, and then if it's done snowing and we've plowed your street, then you can park back on there. But right now, the guys have probably dealt with 5 to 6 vehicles a storm in the way. And so how can we affect change and do it more effectively than, even if there are 5 vehicles, there's no way for those vehicles to get towed very efficiently. Whether Delaney's has room if they're available, they said that they're willing to work with us, but if they're available, and then where to store them, then do we tow them, and if we don't have a locked, secured place, then can they just come and get their vehicles and avoid the payment, whereas a citation, that doesn't happen. And so what I put in the memo would be $150 for the first offense in 12 months, $200 for a second offense, and $250 for a third offense. And again, we're not proposing this to try and get people to get citations. What I would like to see, if the council's willing to go with this, is that we create fluorescent paper, make notices that for the next couple of weeks, Fred early in the morning or Brad on the night shift can douse every car that's parked on a street anywhere with these notices and say, when snow comes, here's how you're going to know, and you're going to get a citation. And make sure that we do everything that we can to let people know, on top of obviously social media, things like that. But I think that you have the ability to create tools that help it to be more effective for the guys, and right now it just hasn't worked well since Lions hasn't had tow trucks, so that's why I asked Phil to be here. And then it's a challenge even with the fact that, out of a 2-week period, Brad's there 6 nights one week and 2 nights the next. So this week right now, if if there was a snowstorm on a Saturday, there's no police officers working until Wednesday, or Monday if Fred's there, sorry. And then in the evening, not till Wednesday. So our hope, again, with the higher amount, is that we'd like to have kind of a system between Fred and Brad that if the guys are going to go out on a snow route and we're going to declare it a snow emergency, they can come out at a reasonable hour. Say we declared it 10 p.m. It doesn't say get off the road when the plow comes, even if they come in at 3 in the morning. Brad or Fred could go out at 10 p.m., figure out where the cars are, get the citations done. We can certainly make an attempt to run a plate and walk up to the door, which we do anyway, but people just don't, they're not going to change if it's a $5 ticket or a $20 ticket. It's just not. It needs to be.
Do we ever call Buck Simon or Midwest Diesel, who has Lion's old tow truck? Because he's not in a town, or necessarily in a town.
We can add whoever we want to towing, but it's still being practical.
Kind of what we've done in the past. I know Chris Powers also works for Tegler's.
Tegler. I was going to say we call Tegler too.
And a lot of times he has a truck there, but
Last winter there wasn't.
yeah, it was hit and miss.
Spotty.
Winter was a flatbed there or a tow truck. For a while, he was bringing their bigger truck home, and he would have to park it out behind the BP station because it was too heavy to park on the street. And the neighbors were complaining when he'd started up in the morning, so he the smaller truck or the pickup Tegler's pickup is kind of what he's been bringing home. So that's kind of hit and miss. And then usually if we do declare a snow emergency, if I'm working, I'm out of the car, I'm knocking on doors, and for the most part, people are pretty good, but you still get that 1 or 2 that you just can't get a hold of them anyway.
Is it typically the same people that were?
Yeah, yes and no. I know I just had a conversation. Somebody moved in downtown here, and I saw their vehicle had been parked out in front of one of the businesses for about 5 days, and got a phone number and called them, and they've actually got it on the side street now. So, but yeah, and as I was talking to them about the 2-hour parking up there, I also let them know that, hey, we're coming into winter, and listen to your radio. If we get over 2 inches of snow, really listen to your radio because there's no on-street parking. So anybody I kind of run into, we kind of give them a forewarning too. So.
And again, it might feel painful to get that citation, but at least your car's not gone.
Yeah.
If you balance the two, you're going to pay about $150 by the time everything's said and done to get your vehicle. You may not get it in the morning when you realize it's gone.
Yeah.
So even though the citation is something new to Cascade, I would think that you would still have your vehicle there in the morning. The guys are gonna plow you in, that'll be difficult, but then if you have to pay that kind of a citation, you're probably not gonna do it again.
What levels are like other communities at?
Really, most people just say towing.
Yeah.
But again, like, this is the first community I've ever worked in where cops aren't there all day, every day.
Yeah.
And so I think you also have to, when you compare the communities that have 24/7 coverage, like, there's always a cop working. So I've never had this where the guys are like, oh, like, Fred's done working, and this is a off day for Brad, or Brad's already home, and, you know, that just doesn't happen in other communities that are as big as even Dyersville or whatever. So nobody has citations this amount. And again, if you're in a slightly bigger town, you probably have a tow truck that's right there, and we may or may not, like Delaney's is saying, they'll try to work with us, but if it's me, I'd rather pay one time and have my car. And again, we're not trying to be difficult, like, I think we can do everything that we can to try and educate people and, like, make it known if the council makes this change that it's coming, so make plans. And there's public parking lots, we can put Fred's number on there and say you can certainly call the police department and they'll try to help you figure out what's the best way for you to get to a city hall lot or over by Public Works, over by the tap room.
Soccer field.
Yep, soccer
Pool.
field, behind the coffee shop. There's lots of places
Community
people can
park.
go.
We've had snow emergencies before where it's been quite a few years with Blackie, once they cleared for them to start towing, he was pulling them in and his lot was full, so he started towing them down to the community parking lot. So they'd go in and pay him, we'd pick them up, take them down to their car so they could get their car.
I mean, I hate to charge people more money, but at the same time, I also think that if we're plowing and there's cars and then they have this huge pile, you know, that's dangerous too for people to be walking across and trip hazards and all that stuff, so.
And again, I really believe that it's a one and done situation when you have a high.
And we'll still try to make an effort. If there's a car there, we're gonna make an effort to find out who the owner is. And it's gonna be, if we can't get a hold of them,
And I would say if you took 5 cars, you'd probably find 2 or 3, and 1 or 2 would get a ticket. That's not our goal. But if there are some people who are kind of habitual, and you will change their behavior by doing this.
yeah, we actually had a lady that lived in one of the apartments, been quite a few years ago, but I bet we gave her 30 warnings and did our best. And one morning I tried getting a hold of her and knocking on her door and called Lions. We towed her car. We didn't have a problem after that. We didn't even-
Towing's expensive.
Yeah, we didn't even charge her. It was just the towing fee and the storage. So I think he charged her about $100. So.
Do we have signage posted downtown? Like, we do.
Yeah, for the 2-hour parking, and then I think at each end, there is signs that talk about our snow emergency and stuff like that, so.
So one of the things, though, is like there's 5 signs around town that are not what anybody does. They all say that you can park on the even side one day and the odd side another day, and that is not what's
We don't do
happening.
that anymore either.
So that's part of this conversation is, that makes it
Cleaning
seem
up the
like
ordinance.
there's snow emergencies, and then I think it says like all winter, that's what you're supposed to be doing. And do you think anyone does that? No. So there's like a sign literally like right in front of the bank that Phil showed me, and I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure no one does that. And it is in here, I found it, that's in the packet here, that says even and odd. And again, those are big city rules where you literally are not gonna get through your town in one day. So you have everybody move to one side so that you can get the plows through on one side, and then you switch the next night. But we're a small enough community with a good enough size, like it's not a big crew, but we have a crew that can get it done in a day. Like nobody's staying for 2 days to plow, so that would be, getting, that's on page 20 of your packet, but we would propose then that goes away, and that basically we're saying, if there is no snow emergency, you can be on the road. Like even last night, or yesterday, when they plowed and it was just a couple inches, like, that's not the end of the world. People kind of get a little.
What's like our threshold? I guess, Mr. Mayor, what's your threshold for a snow emergency?
Well, probably 3 or so.
Inches?
3 to 4.
Yeah, I've kind of.
You know, when you plow and you don't have much of a berm, I guess.
I mean, with this one being early,
Yeah.
it wasn't a big deal, but it's the ones coming after this, if this one didn't leave, that gets
Yeah,
harder,
because,
right,
It's
Phil?
supposed to be 40 degrees on Wednesday.
Yeah,
It's
that-
supposed to be.
Fingers crossed.
We'll see. But yeah, if somebody's asking, I usually tell them, listen to your radio, and if they say that we're gonna get a snow over 2 inches, just think
Just get
about
off
what
the
you
road.
need to do. If you can get it off the street, get it off the street. We may not declare a snow emergency, but.
And again, these citations would only be if there's a snow emergency. Does everybody feel like they can live with that?
Just curious, just because we're talking about snow, whose responsibility is, like, if your car is parked on the street, and that's just your parking spot, the snow around it, like, whose responsibility is that? Are you supposed to clear off around your car?
Well, that'd be great, but that's the point, is no. So that's where
That's why
you're
they
making
plow the
more
street.
work for the guys when they have to go around everybody, because technically the guys have to come back. and
Come
clean
back
it up.
later.
Yeah, because it just, you see some that just roll it out in the street and then it like now, stuff's frozen real hard, and it's
Yeah, 'cause
in
it got
people's parking
cold.
spots, and then people just keep drifting out into the street
Right,
more and
and then
more.
it gets less safer because the road gets
Narrower.
narrower. So again, the goal is to affect change, not to generate revenue. So if the council is willing to give their blessing, we would draft it for next time, and we'll post it, that maybe we'll do it as a quicker reading since we'll have some time here, but we would then redefine a snow emergency, not saying what it means, we're gonna declare it one way or another. We'd add the citation language, and then we would remove the stuff about alternate side parking, because nobody does that anyway.
But we still have it in there that if Delaney needs to get a tow truck.
The tow truck
then that-
stays, and so
Okay.
now we have two tools in the toolbox.
Yep.
You know, to me, I think you'd probably go for a citation first. And then if someone's habitual, I guess we can tow their vehicle the second time, you know, if we want. It's just.
It just seems like, I know in years past, prior than before last year, when lines were there, it was a lot easier than, I think, even giving out tickets, just getting them off the street and.
Right, but they were here and they acted quickly.
So what are we gonna do when there's no, cop on duty?
Well, I already talked to Fred, like, we're gonna, what? Right, we're gonna call. So if Fred knows, like, obviously we don't like randomly at the middle of the night declare a snow emergency. Like, we know. And so what we talked about today was, let's set it for like 10 o'clock. So everybody knows before you go to bed, you need to have your car off the road. And then Fred could come in on a late, you know, like, buzz around at 10 o'clock before he goes to bed if Brad is off. And then if Brad's only here till 1 or 2, he can drive around even before the guys come in. If the snow emergency starts at 10 and the guys aren't coming until 3, he can still drive around, make an effort at 10 o'clock, try to get everybody off the road. If not, he can have citations ready. And then if nobody's working, we'll work it out with Fred, that somebody, and that's the other reason, like I said, where I want it to be high enough, is that if we do have to call, obviously Fred's salary, but if we're calling Brad on overtime, that needs to be factored into the difficulty of them not getting their work done. You gotta come back and plow around again, and then you're paying a cop time and a half to come in for an hour or two to take care of it. So that's, again, it's not a big moneymaker. It's just gonna be covering our costs and the time to go back. And
What is the fee schedule, Lisa?
I'm suggesting 150, 200, and 250. And then Fred would keep track of a 12-month rolling. So if you have your first citation in any 12-month period, it'd be 150. If you do it again, it's 200, and the next time 250, and then you'd stay at 250. And he can keep track of that on a spreadsheet with what vehicle got it. So there's nothing right now, obviously.
Do these go on like their record per se? Like you get a speeding ticket?
It'd be an ordinance violation.
Yeah, it's not against your driving
It
record.
would be a traffic.
Okay.
Would be a traffic, it's a non-moving violation. We'd write it under ordinance rather than like going by the state bail bond schedule.
So it wouldn't impact their insurance or anything.
No.
No.
It's just no different than if you didn't, it's a higher amount, obviously, but if you didn't cut your grass or just ignored something else.
Anything else?
So are we good if I bring it back for the next meeting?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay, and then the snow sidewalk, is that next?
Yep, number 11.
Okay, so same thing. I know when we discussed this last time, Riley thought that he found a 48-hour thing, and I feel like even Phil thought it, but I can't find 48 hours anywhere
Yeah,
in
and
the
I
code.
looked again and
Like, I searched the number 48, like, I can't find it. So for now, it basically is unclear. If you look on page 19, the 3-16-5 says it's the responsibility to remove snow and ice from sidewalks. If they do not remove it in a reasonable time, well, that's not enforceable. Reasonable time. Then if you go to page 21, 2 pages later, it says that you have 24 hours after the deposit of accumulation. And then it says that we can have it removed without notice. So what I would like to see is we clear up where it says reasonable, have them both 24 hours after the snow is on the sidewalks. And I think it's reasonable in communities that are going to enforce it more, is that you do like a door hanger, just like we do for other things. So like in the most effective places I've worked, we'd get to the 24-hour mark. If somebody has time, they drive around, they look for the ones that are in violation, they hang a door hanger that says you have another 24 hours. So by the time we're coming to your house to do it and send you the bill and put it on your taxes, if you don't pay it, it would be 48 hours.
And who do we have do that?
So obviously the guys usually don't have time. Like some communities, and Phil kind of said like right now we don't really put the crackdown on anybody. But the more walkability you want to have and you want it to be safe, that's kind of a policy decision. You want to just like willy-nilly see what happens and let people do it, that's fine. Some communities I've worked in, they will go to someone that does snow removal, and they could hire a contractor to say, you're going to be the one that has the authority that we hire to go drive around. They can be the ones to tag them. They keep who they tagged. They go back the next day and they take a picture. In the requirement, it would be a picture before and after. So you'd have a digital photo saying, this is what your sidewalk looked like when I got there, and I plowed it, and if it has to be salted or anything, and then they take a picture when it's clear, and then whatever their bill is plus an administrative fee is what they'd get charged. And it really is if that's what you guys want to do. If you want the sidewalks to be clear, like we have problems high-profile areas across the street here where someone never shows up sometimes. And then you can say, like I know the mayor said, oh, there's sidewalks that nobody really wants, but we can't say, if you're in that area, then you don't have to do it. So it either has to be we just ignore it and have a rule and see what happens, or we can create a more proactive approach to it.
Yeah, and kind of the same thing, if we see something, we'll go up and knock on doors, and the ones you said across the street here, probably 4 or 5 times a winter, we've got to call him. And he's always got somebody that'll take care of it, but
That
next thing you
doesn't.
know, he's down here doing it himself, so. But, yeah. So, yeah.
So it's kind of 2 issues. One, do you want to clean up the code so it's clear in both sections if it's 24 hours? And then I think it should say that we give people some kind of notice, because right now it says we can just come and do it without notifying you.
I think
That seems a little
notice is
extreme.
definitely necessary.
Yeah, I want notice.
So we can do a door hanger with an additional 24 hours. And then you can think about it over the next 2 weeks, and we can talk about a few.
Yeah.
So who do we have in town as far as clear snow?
Shock mules?
Shock mills.
It's usually like landscaping firms. And they have to have like snow blower type equipment, because this isn't plowing driveways or plowing parking lots. But you would go to them and say, so the way that we did it, and again, this was more up north where there's more snow, but they would say, we're going to put in a bid for $4 a foot. And then that was their charge to us. And so it would be like if you have 50 feet of frontage, times $4 a foot, you're getting a $200 bill. And then we do like a $25 administrative fee for the time of like having to, send out the invoice, mail it, collect it, Kathy's time basically for doing that. So it would be whatever the fee is. And then we also did, like when we bid it out that way, it would say what the snow removal price was. And then if it was like a salt, sand, icy situation, there was maybe like another $1.50 or $2 that was for salting and sanding. So you would go create like a request for proposals, send it out to any of these firms like Shockamil. They can put in a bid and they're our person. And really for them to go, and then it kind of takes the onus off of Fred and Phil to not have to worry about it. They can go around, we'd authorize them to tag houses at the 24-hour mark, and then if they go back, and we actually created door hangers that had like a perforated bottom. So the top was your hanger that said, hey, you're at 103 First Avenue West, like your 24 hours is up tomorrow at 9 a.m. And then they'd have a tag at the bottom that he kept, and he'd write the address on it. So then he took the little tags with him, and he knew where he hung all these tags. Then he'd go make a route the next day, start where he started, and then get the route, and whoever was left started getting cleared. It's again, it's not what you've done in the past. It's really if you feel like the walkability of, if people are fine with it, if you want to do it complaint-based only, and you don't have to decide that today. You can think about it if you want.
So with a vehicle, it goes to the car. The citation goes to the car, wherever the license is.
Correct.
Okay, with a property,
To the homeowner and to the property taxes if they don't pay.
but if it's a renter,
Still the property owner.
So then it would
Even
be
if-
the property owner assessing it to the renter.
It's
The
the
rent-
same with grass. Like if grass wasn't cut, we wouldn't build a renter. We would build a property owner.
And if you have a lease with your renter that says it's your job to mow and your job to shovel, then it's a
That-
civil matter between the
Yeah.
landlord and the tenant if they want to go after them. But we have the right via the ordinance to assess it on your property taxes, so.
okay.
And again, we can do try to either have a story in the Pioneer, if the council approves this at the next meeting, we can try to be good about it on Facebook. And again, I think our first goal is compliance.
I also would like to see something, if we do move forward with this, with citations and things like that, I'd like to see also, like, coming up with some options for elderly or people that can't go out there and shovel themselves, like, some kind of, is there a high school club that wants to donate their time to go out and do this? I would like to also brainstorm some ideas there, that way, so that it's not this huge burden on people, because, like, we don't have sidewalks where we live, and so I'm feeling really bad being like, well, I don't have to do this, but I'm going to force you to do it, and I'm going to charge you if you don't. So, like, that's where I'm kind of sitting, and I do think it needs to be done. I get that. It needs to be done, but I would like to see a way to
So the
have
city
another
of-
option.
Yeah, in the city of Dubuque, one of the presentations that they had at the league conference was they were talking about volunteerism. And they had a situation where, and this was income-based, so if it was a wealthy person that was elderly and just didn't feel like spending their money, they were not eligible for it. But, and obviously it's again in a bigger city, but they had people where they would say like, are there any volunteers out there who are willing to help? And then then the other flip side was, is there anybody that feels like they're in need? And again, that was a vetted process by income. And they really targeted the places that were frequent flyers on not doing their sidewalk. So if Fred knows that there's two, he could go up to this person like, hey, are you having a struggle? Like, do you need contractors? Just like, and typically when the contractors, like Ashakama, let's say, was charging their fee to us to do it, it was always gonna be more than if the person hired them directly. So you might as well just go hire the guy, not have it come through us giving you a violation, because then you're having higher fees. But certainly something that we could look at to say, like, are there teenagers, like,
Because like high school Silver Cord, they need a lot of volunteer hours to get it, to
Right.
graduate. So like something like that. I don't know if we could work with Haley if she has anything to do with Silver Cord or something like that, where we could get
Right,
a group
connect
that
people.
wanted to volunteer their time, like a group of high schoolers that wanted to be responsible for this or whatever. Just some kind of idea, so that
Yep.
it's not this huge financial burden for people.
right. And again, the first goal is find someone that you can pay that's less than what you're gonna pay if we come in.
Megan, if you're feeling really bad, 106 Pierce Street. Next
Your
door.
shop. You know the place, didn't it used to be your parents'? We can share sidewalks
good.
with the Oak Killers.
There is people that just drive around and check on sidewalks. Greg, probably 4 years ago, came to me and told me, you need to shovel your sidewalk.
Yeah.
I had a sidewalk to nowhere.
Yeah.
But somebody knew I had a sidewalk, and I didn't clear it because it went to nowhere. But there's people out there watching.
Well, and for me, like, you know how I feel, like, if we have an ordinance, we should do what we can to get it enforced, because it's there for a reason.
Absolutely, I agree.
I've had a couple of requests from people that want the walk shoveled from like where Donnie Monarnock lives down into the community park because they walk there in the winter.
They
You know,
get to the park.
We actually do have quite a few winter walkers, and especially along Main Street with kids coming out of school. I know my kids all rode, even in the winter, they rode their bikes. Where they came down through the
Yeah.
sidewalks and sometimes backing around behind here
Right.
and come down.
And that's why you want to enforce it.
Yeah, so I mean, we need to have that open for sidewalks.
The other thing that I know in one community, we had a struggle with people that lived on corners not understanding that it was their responsibility to clear to the road on their ADA approaches if there was a curb cut there. so that people aren't getting to the corner and then having to jump over a pile of snow. And so if we're gonna make some changes, my suggestion would be that we also make sure it's clear that any corner abutting people are responsible to clear it all the way to the corner, those corner chunks that are, you know what I mean?
The other thing too is, what about fire hydrants?
So that should already be,
Like, I don't know if that's in our code anywhere.
I didn't look, but it should be. Every city I've ever worked in, it's usually though in like your water code. It'll say an abutting property owner.
I've never seen anything in no code about it. Could be that.
Mhm.
I never read the whole book.
What? You haven't, Phil?
So I can look,
You remember?
I can look before next time, but it should say that anyone who has a hydrant on their property or abutting their property is responsible to keep it clear.
Mhm. I mean, it's in their best interest,
Absolutely.
to do that.
You want me to make sure, and if there isn't
Yeah,
one,
if you
bring
don't
one?
mind.
All right, so I'll bring it next time for what we just discussed.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And then the next one. Mr.
Number
Ryan.
12, discussion on changes to ordinance setting parking citation amounts raising from $5.
So again, Fred says it's been $5 for as long as he's been here, and who knows if it was even before that. $5 doesn't affect change.
That's the price of a cup
It's
of
like
coffee.
less than a meal at McDonald's. And so I did look a little bit, like there's some communities that at least have $10. Some have $15 and $20. And then most of them all around us, after the 30 days, will either double it or at least add another $5. But to me, $5 isn't worth the cost of the ticket and Fred's time to write it.
It isn't.
So, do you have any thoughts on what you're willing to go to if you want to make a change? I just think $5 is,
$20.
hmm,
$20 parking ticket,
20? And then what
Yeah.
about 30 days?
double.
Okay,
Yeah.
is everybody good with that?
Yep.
So 20 to 40, and we'll write that code as well. All right, easy enough.
How many do we actually give out a year?
Fred, how many do you write a year? Not very many.
Parking tickets?
Yeah, it kind of varies. Once in a while we'll write a parking ticket and it'll be somebody that just moved into town, has no idea what our ordinances are. So we'll end up dismissing it and explain what the ordinance is. Generally, we don't have another issue with them. Somewhere between 50 and 100 parking tickets a year is what we actually write. So,
It's not a lot.
no, it's not a huge amount, but yeah, I mean, you go there, you have to run the plate, you have to write all the information down, and you have to keep track of it, and if they don't come in, you go knock on their door and say, hey, remember you had a parking ticket? Price is gonna go up, so.
I think the one area that we have struggles with the most, like, you know, I kind of wrote in my memo, like, it's hard to balance the 2-hour parking rules with, like, discouraging people from shopping. And really, I think the intent of it, Fred and Lisa talked about that the intent was to make sure tenants upstairs weren't parking there all day, or business owners aren't parking there all day. But we do have some pretty problematic corners, with the number one being by the coffee shop. Especially it affects our employees who are constantly coming out by the shop, but they park in the yellow in front of Luna Ray's. And so,
That's
you know,
blind.
we haven't really given a lot of citations there. But I think that we would like to see Fred be a little bit more aggressive on that, and probably let, you know, Cheryl's know. And I know Fred said he's like been out there a couple times about to write a ticket, and people are running, like, I'm coming. And I think it's more of a problem since the coffee shop opened, just because of the high level of traffic.
Yep.
But people need to respect that, because it's not safe when they park there, so, does everybody,
The 2-hour parking, is that just on Main Street or does that include the side streets?
First Avenue? I think it's just First Avenue.
From the bridge to the stoplight, basically.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you.
You're safe when you're working.
I know, I was like panicking, oh my gosh, am I violating it?
We're not talking about you.
Number 14, discussion on changes to ordinance for current burning ordinance, recreational burning only.
So as you can see, I tried to explain in the memo that I feel like there's been some less than clear vagueness on this code, that we've been telling people that it's recreational only, and then when you pull out the older code, not only does it say that landscape waste is allowed, and that there are some communities around us that allow that, but as you know, like when you burn leaves, it just smolders. And so we've already had a couple of calls. The more disturbing thing to me is that we technically allow burning of garbage. So you can have your own residential waste, as long as it's the garbage from your property and you put it in a burn barrel, that you can burn it in your yard, right in our highly dense populated areas. And I feel like we've been telling people that that is not allowed, because we thought that that's what was not allowed. But when you get out the ordinance and actually look at it and start to receive phone calls, and then, you know, obviously, it's easier for the guys to be informed because of the online code now, and so you can just kind of search the word burn and there it is, whereas in the past, they weren't necessarily driving around with the big code book in their squad cars. So we need to know what the council wants to do going forward. I'd say the common thing, of course, is always allowing recreational burning, which is, you know, cooking hot dogs and marshmallows and sitting around a campfire. We want to keep that if we have a storm event, that there's exceptions to that, and then our city burn pile is an exception to that. So I would say the two things that I would think we're focused on is, are you still going to allow, and if people call now, you know, now that we're aware of it, we have to be able to say, yes, you can burn your garbage if it's a complex of 4 units or less, as long as it's your garbage, and then the yard waste.
Yeah, and plus the fact that we do have several signs in town that say no open burning as you're passing through town. So, and that's probably one of the biggest things we get. And it didn't happen here, but just an example, I moved my son out of town. He bought a house in Anamosa. We had the rental truck parked in his driveway. I walked out in their garage, and their garage was filled with smoke. And it looked like it was coming from the truck. I walked over in front of the truck and realized it was the neighbor across the street, had a ditch, and they were burning all the leaves. And I'll tell you, his house stunk for 3 days.
And that's what I mean about the yard waste. When it gets to be just yard waste, it's pretty
Yeah.
smoldery.
And then, let's say you have a dry year, you do have a burn barrel, and all of a sudden sparks start going, the grass is dry, and next thing you know, your neighbor's house is on fire.
That could have been our whole neighborhood this year.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah, seriously. Everything was dry.
Oh, God.
So what are your thoughts on sub number 4 and 6? I would recommend getting rid of them, but it's up to the council.
I agree. And what about 3? What are flare stacks?
I think that's if you have, like, to me, that's if you have like a landfill. Like some communities have worked with me, like
They
old
burn off
landfills,
the-
and then they have like the gas that comes. I think that's what that is.
Yeah,
I believe so, yeah.
they burn off the methane.
You think so, Phil?
In compliance with the natural resources.
Yeah,
So did we ever have a landfill like that?
Nope.
So we could just get rid of that too?
Disaster rubbish, is that unusual?
I would say it was, you know, like the first time we've probably ever had it was when we all had the derecho. And then it's basically just saying like you might, but doesn't it even say like we have to make a determination? It's a declared emergency. So if we had just like so many trees that you could never get rid of them all, we could say, okay, now if you have a safe situation in your backyard in a burn barrel, we're gonna let you, and then we declare, just like we do a snow emergency, here's the rules.
Let's say we happen, God forbid, we happen to have a tornado hit town.
Mhm.
You know, and maybe just one section of town, the rest of the town is fine, but all of a sudden landfill, the compost site is absolutely full with stuff. Maybe people can burn things in their backyard, so.
Is that kind of unusual? I mean, I know in Cedar Rapids, they basically went around for 2 or 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, I'm just saying, but I've never seen anybody burning anything, you know.
I mean, we
No,
could
they-
even say like it's.
They hauled everything.
They hauled everything out. So
Yeah.
Yeah, they hold a lot of
I can't
stuff.
imagine.
I mean, do most communities have a yard waste site?
Every place I've ever worked.
But it's also, we don't need to worry about too much. It's by official
Declaration.
declaration, so.
And it's
Yeah.
not gonna be an emergency, like even if, you know, it could be a conversation we have here at a meeting.
I guess I just find it kind of unusual, but.
I mean, you can get rid of it if you want.
You'd allow,
Have you ever used that code? Perhaps not.
That I'm aware of.
Phil? No?
I mean, I find it unusual that you would even allow somebody to sit there and start burning trees alongside another property, or I guess that's what you're.
That's why we're saying to get rid of number 4.
Yeah. I mean,
Because if you look at the recreational.
Even to leave it in there, I mean, I would think you would haul everything away one way or the other, just like Cedar Rapids, Marion.
I think no matter what the situation is, whether it was a tornado or whatnot, the cleanup effort, I don't think it would ever be really a good idea for large fires of burning materials in the middle of town.
Mhm.
Probably would.
Especially with how dry everything's been.
Yeah, and, I mean, and especially since in those situations, more than likely there is water probably going in those
I bet,
areas.
yeah.
There's probably a lot of other damage structurally that's probably a bad idea.
So Lisa, do we get rid of 1, 3, 4, and 6?
That's what I'd say. And we just leave 2 and 5 and 7
And 8.
and 8. I don't know. I would probably even have that.
No, get rid of 8.
I don't know. Why would you let somebody? I mean, I guess you could leave it in there. In case there's some weird circumstance, at least it gives the council the ability to give a variance. That's fine. So is everybody okay if I bring it back next time with 1, 3, 4, and 6 gone?
Yep.
Works for me.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred.
Number 15, resolution number 90-23, appropriating urban renewal tax revenue funds for fiscal year '25 and submit the annual urban renewal report for fiscal year '23.
So we have, thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Bye, Phil.
Thanks,
We
Phil.
have 211-100, that is our request, based on all of our TIF agreements, including the ones that you approved this fall, ones that date as far back, I think the oldest one is River Bend. So all of that adds up to the 211. You'll remember that last year we asked for about 288, which was that shortfall from the GO debt, that remember we didn't get enough. But because that, we didn't get all of that, but Kathy and I had a good conversation with Megan at the county. And because we declared that debt last time, even though we didn't get it all, we don't declare it again. So we will get more than this 211. Did we decide it was like 290? It was around 390, sorry. 390,000. So when you take the amount that we didn't get last year and this amount, this is just new debt. But in the budget, when we get to budget time, you'll see a number that's higher than that. So these are all the agreements. You can see them either listed on page 35 in the resolution, or the supplement behind it has the same thing, that all the different businesses that are on there, the administrative cost thing that you guys adopted in this year's budget, the 20,000 from the Buchanan Street sewer that was affiliated with the old brewery. So all of those are in there. So if the council, and this is due to the county and state by Thursday of this week. So if the council agrees with those numbers, we would be recommending approval of resolution 90-23. And that also includes submitting the urban renewal annual report that Kathy completed, which again is just a summary looking back at fiscal '23 and all the things that we actually allocated. So the annual report is from fiscal '23, and then the stuff that you're allocating is actually for fiscal '25. And then, of course, we're in fiscal '24. Are there any questions?
I just have a question. I mean, we're basically right now at 261,000 in debt as far as the.
The negative balance in TIF.
Yes.
Yep, so that's why we're getting, so like next year, you'll see new expenses of 211. So at the end of fiscal '24, we will have expenses that are smaller than the revenue that we get, because we're gonna get like 325.
Okay.
And about 100 of that is money going to offset the negative. And then this year, if you approve this number, in addition to last year, our basic prediction is that by the end of fiscal '25, that wash will be gone, or that negative will be gone to a zero balance.
So these funds are just basically, I know we're generating revenue from TIF.
Yep.
So we actually have an allocation there that we haven't used.
So
I
what
mean,
happened?
that we're able to draw another 100 and some thousand.
Correct. So what happened is that in the past, as the TIF has grown, in the beginning, they were asking for more than they could get, because there's a max, right? Like you have all these parcels that are in there, and those generate increment. So let's just make up a number. Say that the max that you could get based on the tax bills was 300, but when you had all that debt from the water debt before, you were really asking for 400. we weren't really keeping track as good as we should of that. I mean, it's being kept track of. We know what it is. That's part of the audit, which is how you got that negative number. But if we asked for 400 and we only got 300, we have to keep track of that and making sure that we get it in future years. So that was happening. Then remember last year or 2 years ago, when they thought they were done paying the debt and they didn't pay attention to some of those shortfalls. Remember, they only asked for the 93,000, and that's when we started going in the hole because we still had stuff to make up from some of those years. Well, now we're in the flip. So the other thing that can happen is we really could get like $600,000 right now. Because one of the other things, remember last year that we discovered was that the county did not have the information that we were blight. We were a blight community. And remember that blight communities never have their TIF fall off. And you don't get to like the 20th year. So there was a year where we were like, they were about to start giving us less. And so now our amount is like 600,000. So if you have 600, now they're only going to give you the amount of the debt that you have. So because we asked for that 288 last year, and we didn't, because we were at 90, and then we were going up to like 320, remember how that was like a huge shift where like when you don't ask for it, it goes into the general fund taxes. And so you were like, ooh, big influx of money 2 years ago because TIF was low. And then we were going like pendulum back. So we don't want to make it like a big increase again. So it'll only be 390. But as we have capacity, remember we've added the library debt and then we're going to be adding Highway 136. There is capacity to generate more, but you only get more up to that 600 if you have debt to justify it.
Why wouldn't something like this show up in our yearly audit?
Because the audit's looking at what you actually spend. And there's a pot that can be smaller or bigger depending on the increment that you generate off of all the taxes that are put into our urban renewal area. And so when they look at it, like they check the numbers. And they did tell you that it was a negative 2 years ago. Like remember it was like 120 something and then it went to like 250-ish and now it's gonna go to 260-ish. Like we asked Dustin, who was here, and obviously you'll get the audit in a month or so, but we asked him, so it's like about 10,000 more because the year that they're auditing is the really low request year. So now when they do fiscal 24 and 25, that negative should go away.
God, that is so confusing.
Sorry. But Kathy and I are going to work on a much better spreadsheet because you do have to keep track. So like another example is like smart communications. Remember how we discovered that like they're not even out there. And like 1 year we asked for money that we didn't ever give them. Like we never cut them a check last year. So if that's the case, that they're gone now, we have to report like give that back. So we'll take a credit for something else. Or sometimes we ask for a dollar amount that's a little bit higher than what we actually pay the business because we don't know their exact taxes. So not only do you have to have the whole TIF, but we need to have a good spreadsheet that keeps us informed of each business. We asked for this, we gave you this. We asked a little bit too much. So then at the end of their payments, we might not be asking, but we might be paying. Because you have to like keep track of every one of these agreements. And there's not a great spreadsheet right now. So Kathy and I have a goal to work on that before budget time.
Oh, Bill, I'm glad you asked those questions.
So this resolution shows you the dollars, and then Exhibit A is the report that we owe the state to certify this debt, and then B is summarizing fiscal 23 is owed to the state and county as well.
So I need a motion on resolution number 90-23.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 90-23.
Motion by Roush,
Second.
second by Kelchin, roll call.
Oliphant,
Aye.
Felton.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Consideration to approve and submit the fiscal year 2023 annual financial report.
Same thing, this is required form by the state that's due December 1st. Kathy worked hard on getting all these numbers in there, and we went through it at the end there together. And this is required by December 1st as well. Just a summary of the fiscal 23 year. This is the summary page that shows you. And they divide it into general fund, which is the governmental, proprietary, which is the utilities, including gas and electric, and then actuals compared to the budget. Is there any questions, otherwise we would just need a motion to approve and submit.
Do I have a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion. To that effect.
Motion by Delaney, second by Kelchin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 17, consideration of ordinance number 16-23, change library board meeting time, and this is the second of 3 readings.
Again, we discussed this at the last time, and the next few ordinances are the same, that we would like our ordinances to give more flexibility to our boards, commissions, and committees. Instead of stating when they'll meet, it'll require them to either meet at least once a month or as needed. In the case of library and parks and utility board, it'll be requiring them to do once a month. And then things like planning and zoning are just as needed. So this is the second reading of ordinance 1623.
I need a motion on 16-23.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Oliphant,
Second.
second by Roush. Roll call.
Telchin.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Number 18, consideration of ordinance number 17-23, change planning and zoning commission meeting time. This is the first of 3 readings.
So this will be one that just says, regular intervals deemed by the board to permit timely and appropriate handling. So they are not required to meet once a month. And that is ordinance 1723, first reading.
And I need a motion
Is there any benefit to waiving the third next meeting, just
to do it.
to get it all off before
You're
we start a
done.
new year? Well, no, before we start a new year, too.
That's fine. We can just have you do the first reading, and then I can
Yeah.
post them for the next time, for
Yeah, I was
second and
just,
third.
so that we can,
Yep.
That's
just
fine.
because that'll wipe
Can
some
you
of
do
that
that
stuff
for
off.
the utility board too?
Yeah, I'll do it for all 3.
All
Okay,
3,
thank you.
yeah. I'll make a motion.
Motion by
for the first reading.
Kelchin,
Second? Oh, go ahead.
second by Hush. Roll call.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Telchin.
Aye.
Number 19, consideration of ordinance number 18-23, change Parks and Recreation Board meeting time, and this is the first of 3 readings.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 1823.
I'll
Motion
second.
by Kelchin,
Second.
second by Roush. Roll call.
Hush.
Aye.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Telchin.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Number 20, consideration of ordinance number 19-23, change Utility Board of Trustees meeting time, first of 3 readings.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 1923.
Motion by
Second.
Kelchin, second by Roush. Roll call.
Delaney.
Aye.
Oliphant.
Aye.
Telchin.
Aye.
Roush.
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Number 21, consideration to approve the 2023 fiscal year annual street report.
Again, a report required in the state portal system. We did work on that. I got it this afternoon because we had to tweak it a little bit. There was a couple transfer numbers that we couldn't figure out. So if there's any questions, otherwise this is required because we get road use money from the state. And that is then reporting to them what we spend between road use, the general fund, sales tax, and what all that is to get spent on streets. Due December 1 as well. So again, if you don't have any questions, it's just a motion to approve and submit.
Need a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Oliphant,
Second.
second by Delaney. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Before reports, I'd like to congratulate everybody on a great Saturday in the Park event. Everybody that contributed to that, that was awesome. And also the decorating in the Riverview Park. That looks really nice, so thanks to everybody involved in that. Reports, Fred.
I really don't have anything unless somebody has a question.
One thing, do you mind just out on like the police department's Facebook, like just making a couple posts about, like, I know we had the first snowfall, so I'm sure that'll be, like, just making sure everybody's aware of some.
Can do that, yeah.
Perfect.
Parking, snow, maybe snowfall
Sidewalks.
to get our upgraded ordinance for sidewalks and stuff like that on there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
we can do that.
as another way to get it out there and keep people in the loop.
We can do that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Library Design Committee.
Fingers crossed, Thursday's the day.
What time are they doing that?
2 o'clock.
Okay.
So we'll report as soon as we get it. Probably put it live on Boxcast again so people can watch.
And do you have anything?
I sent you all an email that there is a letter going out to some of the people right by where the pickleball is being proposed. If we So pickleballers came to the park board meeting, they'd like to do a small fundraiser, because obviously we don't have money to give them for 4 courts. So if you check your email, you'll see that you should have gotten the same one that I sent to the park board. So it's kind of the houses right there near Riley and Haley's house around that entrance there. And then they'll be invited to come to the meeting next Monday with the park board. And then if the park board has a recommendation, that'll come before the council. As I said, library bids, we're going to participate between the city chamber and utility at the Career Opportunities Day that they're having at the high school next week for, they call it Career Exploration. Billboard number 2 should be going up in the next week or so. We had to trim some trees, the one that's over here on Kramer's property. That'll be going up, so it'll match the one that's on the west side. We obviously had the west side one done first, so you'll see that going up. I was gonna say the same, thanks to everybody who did the Christmas Saturday event and the decorating. And then great job to the chamber. We had hundreds of people downtown based on the good event with shopping on Saturday. I think for all the punches that got turned in, there were over 200 punches, so 200 people made a purchase at one of the 12. The Friends of the Library was also, what'd you say?
I forgot to turn my card in.
Oh, you can still turn it in until morning.
Fantastic.
Bring it on the way to school. Just turn it in. And then, what was I gonna say? Oh, the library, everybody that participated in the Friends, like, we really appreciate the, kind of the strength that the Friends group has added. And I think they raised $1,100 between the cookie walk and some of the sales, so a good productive 3 hours, and, I think it can only grow, so I think that's everything.
Good. Public comment, limit of 3 minutes per person, only items on this agenda. Seeing none.
Chad.
Chad, do you have anything?
He's already starting the car
Okay.
up. He's ready to go.
If there's nothing else for the benefit of the community, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Kelchin.
I'll second.
Second by Roush. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Thanks, everybody.
You have box cast, Mike?